Hi everyone, welcome to Relatively Sane. I am feeling pretty good today. I actually have been eating well for the past 3 weeks. I can't believe it. I started Weight Watchers again, which I've done jokes about. And I've talked about it on the podcast where, I use the app and I lie on it sometimes. I definitely use a lot more creamer than I put in. I'll put in 2 tablespoons and it's not true. I have like 2/4 of a cups. Does that even make sense? It's hard to be completely honest when it comes to food, for me at least. The one thing I'm not doing is exercising because oh my God, I hate it. I mean, there's people who love it. They really, really love it. I'm sure some of you love it. But I just have to get into it. I just have to do it and then make a commitment to do it like one day a month at first. And then once every 2 months and once every 3 months, once every 4 months. And then eventually I'll get on a pattern of doing it like once a year. I think that would be the best way of doing it. I have an elliptical. I brought it from the previous owners of this house and it was brand new. And I find it to be very hard. I feel like the treadmill is easier because I can just lay down on it and the machine moves underneath me. With the elliptical, I have to move my legs. I have to move my locks up and down. I have to move my legs and arms. I don't want to move. That's the point. Can something move for me? Isn't there a machine you can just strap yourself in and it just moves you? Why has no one ever thought of that? Is there something out there that does that? I don't know. Maybe I'll do that because being a comedian is not really working out for me lately. I mean, I love stand-up, but I'm not looking forward to doing shows lately. And I've been doing them, but it's been like torture, to be honest with you, because I've been doing them outside a lot on rooftops, which is very dangerous. And I did one in an alley. I've been doing them outside, and a lot of times they're for like a small group of people, and it's just very depressing. Sometimes there's not even people there, and I'm just performing because I've lost my mind. So I'll just go to some random place where there's no audience and just start telling jokes. And then obviously I'll bomb, and then I'll use that as an excuse to be upset, which then gives me an excuse to eat. It's perfect, actually. I love you all. Take care of yourselves. Be silly in life. You're going to love this podcast today. You're the best. Thank you for your support. Mwah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Relatively Sane. I am here with my dear friend, Nemr. Hi, Nemr.
Jessica, hello. So good to be with you.
I love looking at you and I love talking to you because you are just a beautiful person. You really are.
That is the kindest thing anybody's ever told me. I love looking at you and talking to you as well. And just as big a fan of your congratulations on your special. I know I've told you before, but I mean, I keep watching it. I actually flew in from Beirut recently and rewatched your special on the plane. Had a blast.
You did?
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
God.
It's one of the best comedy specials. It's arguably the best comedy special in a long time. And I mean that. So very
How
inspiring.
long? I mean, who's better? No, I'm joking. I'm totally joking.
You're better than practically everyone, and I mean that. I really do. I've had the privilege of sharing the stage with you a few times. You're a tour de force, and I love that the special really captured that. You seemed very much in your element. It was fucking awesome to see. I loved it.
Thank you. I really had a say in all of it because, I feel like some people just let the producers and the networks say everything and make the decisions. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm going to do this my way or I'm not going to do it.
That's why then, because it really felt like you.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm sure you have seen many of your friends. I have seen many of my friends who are comics. When you see their special, you're like, it's not you. That's not
You're like, this is overly produced. It's not even who you are.
Yeah. It doesn't feel authentic. Yours nailed it and it's awesome. And, if anybody watching hasn't seen it, go watch it. But I would be very remiss if somebody hadn't seen it yet from your viewers.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of them have seen it, but thank you. I think, you can get it on Comedy Central on the app and there's ways. It's not like, it's hard because it's not like Netflix where it's up there all the time.
True. That's definitely true. But at the end of the day, is it really good to be on Netflix? I mean, is it an advantage to be on Netflix? There's too many specials anyway, so it's not like if you're on Netflix, maybe it's a bit easier because more people have the Netflix app, but you can make the argument that it's worse because more people have the Netflix app, so they're going to be watching other stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. I just want to say before we go on that you may hear my baby screaming. One of my twins is screaming like a lunatic in the background, and it's part of recording at home. But Madison is like, she is screaming. It sounds like, in fact, you probably can't even hear it, but it sounds like she's being tortured, which she may be.
Is that your parenting guide?
Yeah.
How to torture your kids to an Ivy League school?
Yes, I had some military come here just to take care of it because I can't handle it anymore. So they may be doing, I don't know what they're doing, but I'll check it out after we record this. So, so tell people where you're from. Tell us about you because your story and your life is so fascinating to me. And I'm not fascinated by a lot of people. I'm really not.
That's very kind. I started in ISIS, and I had a great time.
Never.
Did a few tours. No, I'm Lebanese. We fought ISIS. And I started doing, well, I grew up in San Diego and caught the comedy bug here as a child, a young man at the age of 4. I used to tell people that I will one day grow up to be either a stand-up comedian or a Ninja Turtle.
Oh, that's so cute. I've never heard that before.
Thank you.
You knew you wanted to do comedy at that age.
At that age. And much to the chagrin of my parents, they couldn't shake it from me for the rest of my life. So fast forward, we moved back to Beirut because my parents were like, we need to go back to Beirut where it's safe. So we left America and ended up in Lebanon in the 90s. And then I went to university there, and I still wanted to do stand-up. And despite the fact that there were no comedy clubs, I did it anyways. And I'm credited for starting stand-up comedy in the Middle East, which started in 1999. So I've been doing this for
so amazing to me.
Thank you. That's very kind. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, where did you start doing it? Like, tell us, because a lot of us don't know about Lebanon. We don't know anything, really, most of us, about what it's like or how it was to do stand-up. What kind of places did you perform in?
Bomb shelters, really well isolated. The acoustics are just I blew up across the I performed in I started off doing concerts. So Lebanon, a lot of people don't know about, is a very liberal country, despite what you may have heard.
Right. People do not, you told me that, and people would not know that.
No, they wouldn't, which is understandable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't, we haven't exactly, how to say this diplomatically, we haven't exported our TV shows haven't made it here yet. We don't have a Friends. You know what I'm saying? We don't have there's no Seinfeld yet, but hopefully one day. So not many people know about us. And of course we have we've had a bit of a conflict for a couple of years that people have, that's what they know. Our biggest hits are basically killing and civil war. So for several decades now, it's a very liberal place. People just love it's, in my opinion, it is the party capital of the world. You cannot match the level of partying and excitement and concerts and singers and art and artists. And a lot of people, don't realize that Lebanon was responsible for writing the preamble to the Constitution of the preamble to the Declaration of Human Rights for the United Nations. They don't know our contributions in poetry and art and medicine and so on and so. The iPhone was designed by a Lebanese man, so on and so forth. A lot of people don't know that Steve Jobs was Syrian and adopted. And I always like to make the joke that a Lebanese guy made the iPhone, but you don't hear about that because Syria doesn't want you to know. That's just a political joke.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
There's a lot that people don't know, but it really just serves the purpose that when I was wanted to do stand up, the best way to do it was to kind of latch myself into concerts. So I would host at my university, the American University of Beirut, I would be hosting these outdoor concerts that would go on for several days. And in between acts, I was doing stand-up. That was where I started. And after I graduated from university, I started going to like clubs because there's a lot of clubs and bars all over the country. And I would take their off nights and do a show there and prove myself. Like they'd be like, holy shit, you sold so many tickets. We want you as a regular, and just kind of built myself up in the local scene, then started doing theater shows in the country. And then, became the first person to actually leave the country and do stand-up in different Middle Eastern countries. So I did like the first show in Saudi Arabia or in Kuwait or all of that stuff. And then effectively started training my competition to basically how to produce shows, bring in artists. And it was crazy. And then around 2015, I just felt like I had nothing really left to prove. I'd made the cover of Rolling Stone magazine in the Middle East. I had sold out all the biggest venues. I was doing arena shows. I was like, let's go to America where nobody knows who the hell I am.
Isn't that
Start
amazing?
over from scratch. Yeah. And that was my journey.
That's unbelievable. So did you find a huge difference in the different countries that you went to in the Middle East of the audiences? Like, tell us about that because I'm so curious. What are the differences? Some of them.
Lebanon is like performing in New York. You got a crowd of people who are from, because of war in Lebanon, everybody left and then came back from all over the world. So when you're doing a show, you got people who are Lebanese Australian, Lebanese American, Lebanese European, from various French educated, English. So it's awesome. It's excellent. Like the level of comedy and the level, like the education, the culture is super high. Going to other Middle Eastern countries, it was difficult because they're not as liberal. In Lebanon, I could literally say and joke and talk about anything I wanted, whether it was religious jokes or sexual jokes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whereas I remember the first show I did in Kuwait, they said, you can't say you have a girlfriend.
Wow.
Like, you're not allowed. You have to say your wife. So a lot of people thought I was married in 2007 because I'm sitting there saying, so I'm driving and I picked up my wife from a club. Like, it made no sense, like the content, but everybody was laughing knowing that my wife meant my girlfriend. So it was like,
that's even funnier that they knew. Right.
Yeah. People were just like in on the joke.
That's so fun. And what about some other places? Like, did you go to
Saudi Arabia was the trip because it was underground. They were illegal shows. Because if you wanted to do a legal show sanctioned by the government, you couldn't have men and women sitting with each other. So they'd have to have that's thankfully no longer the case, but they would have a divider literally down the middle. You have women on one side and men on the other. Mm-hmm. And so we would do these shows, like underground shows where like 3,000 people would show up, Saudis. And they would be on foreign soil. So I do it on a golf course that belonged to like the Italian consulate or the American school. And so basically no jurisdiction. So as long as people crossed over there, they could take off the hijab and it was like a celebration. You'd have women taking off their coverings and dressed just beautifully, and the men and everybody mixing. Those shows would go on for like 3 or 4 hours because people didn't want to leave, and then it would be amazing. Yeah. It was amazing to see them get to the show, and then kind of weird to, when everybody left, like they'd kiss each other goodbye or whatever, and then they cover up and everything, and the women would go with their male sponsors who had to drive them because they weren't allowed to drive, and it was fucking weird, but it was also essential because I feel like a lot of the work I did and then the comedians that came after me did really help push that country to. It still has a lot of work to do, but pushing it in the right direction.
Do you have a good relationship with the comics that are here that perform a lot in the Middle East?
Yeah, most of them I brought them out to the Middle East. Like, I was probably the first.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it competitive within that group like that? No? Good.
No, I mean not from my end at least. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody tries to compete with me because I'm kind of like, I produce a lot of the shows that they're going out to do. So I think there's more than enough to go around, I don't think that, that's what I like about comedy. I mean, you can compete, but it's kind of weird because why would you there's more than enough people who want to laugh.
Well, I don't think you would compete, but I could see people, because you have what a lot of comics don't have, unfortunately, is you have a very good business sense. I do too. Like, I'm always creating work if work is low.
You definitely do.
Yeah. So I'll start thinking about the next thing I need to do to get more work. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's a very important thing to do, to be able to do when you're an artist. Mm-hmm. And so you've had that, it sounds like, from the very beginning. You were producing shows right away and creating these situations for yourself.
I had to. There was no comedy club I could. That was when I first came here. I remember like a lot of big comics I would meet be like, why are you going and doing a club in the middle of nowhere and you were doing arenas? I'm like, because you can go to a place and it's set up. Like, it was so exciting to me to just be able to walk into the Improv or whatever and grab a mic and just go. And then I loved hanging out backstage with other comics. Like, I never had that. I never had opening comics. I would do a show for 6,000 people no warm-up act, just walk out, get people to sit
That's
down.
insane to me. I would freak out from that.
It,
I
it,
would.
what was interesting about the way I started doing stand-up is because I was doing it in concerts. I became very good with controlling large crowds. So it was cool. And I like that.
Yeah.
I don't mind not having an opening comic. If I get an opening comic to do my shows, I always like to make sure that they're awesome.
Yeah.
Like they're crazy good, because I don't want it to be like, this is somebody who's warming up the crowd for me. I would rather it be like, we bought a ticket to Nemr's show and we got so much more,
Yes.
I don't feel the need anymore. Like, I feel like stand up in America, there's some norms that I kind of disagree with. And one of them is like the attitudes towards hosts and opening comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. It's like, this host or opener is here for me, as opposed to, guys, check out this awesome host and opener I got for you as a thanks for buying all the tickets to my show.
Yeah.
I think
That's
an interesting distinction.
Yeah, it's very true. And so you have like, did you get a mailing list going when you did these shows? Like you kept in touch?
Yeah, I started out on MySpace, and then people would come to my shows and I'd advertise. I'd get their numbers and we'd SMS them when I'd have a show. And then I started working with a radio station in Beirut, and I got a radio show going. They were called Mix FM. They're awesome. And it was all like, I was always like putting things together in a way. When Facebook first came out, I did a Facebook group and I would DM everyone. And then it was always like, I was always on these platforms and people would make fun of me for being on them. Like, oh, Facebook's never going to catch on.
Right.
Or Instagram's.
To me too.
And it came full circle now. There is so much oversaturation that it doesn't, being on social media doesn't do anything anymore. So now I'm back to, I have a phone with a number that people can message me and I talk directly to them. So my social network of choice is WhatsApp on my phone. I have tens of thousands of contacts, spend hours every day just replying to people. I know that it's going straight to them, and they're geotagged. So whenever I have a show somewhere, I just send out, and I just had a show in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, or more than that, a few weeks ago. And, the promoters were like, it's quarantine. We don't know if we're going to sell out or whatever. I was like, just give me a second, hit up Dubai. Hey, I'm coming to Dubai. It's a safe show. Here are the protocols, tickets on this link. And we were sold out in less, like in a day.
That's insane.
And so it's perfect. That's what you want, right?
Love seeing people laugh that have to, not in every place, but in a lot of places you perform there where they have to really, kind of hide who they are and can't just, like you're saying, just dress the wherever way they want, and men separated from or whatever it is because of religion and culture and all that stuff. It must be so heartwarming to see people really let go and enjoy and laugh.
I mean, Jessica, what we do is, I don't know if I'm sure you would agree, it's the coolest job on earth. I mean, as a vocation, every time I get on stage, I feel like I'm getting paid for this is ridiculous.
I know. Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like, there's no job in the world where you show up and they give you a standing ovation or just even a round of applause for appearing at your job. Like
That's so great.
We haven't even started. What I'm saying? People are clapping.
It's so awesome. Have you heard stories of people that have said, because a lot of these people, like we were saying in Lebanon, I mean, there's been so much war and so much, oh God, I mean, people have probably said to you so many times, thank you so much for making me laugh and helping me deal with this.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that all the time. And I always tell them, thank you, because if it wasn't for their love and support like theirs, I would be talking to myself. It's a symbiotic. That's what's beautiful about stand-up, is we can't do this without the crowd, and the crowd can't do this without us. So it's not like Bill Higgs, who's one of my favorite comics, said, stand-up comics are the only people, political leaders and religious leaders, people give them money. They beg people to come see them for free. And Bill Higgs was like, comics are the only people that people give us money, but they don't pay us to see us. They pay us to make them listen. And I think that's the most important distinction there. It's not like, hey, you're here to see me because I'm the shit. It's more like, you're here to see me and I need to give you a reason to be here. And that's the most amazing. It's such a brutally honest and noble profession, if you want it to be. And I love that about what we do. A lot of people come and say, thank you for what you're doing. And, it got me through this difficult time. I mean, Lebanon just went through, whether it was the revolution that started October 17 of 2019 or 2020 rather, and that's still going on, or it was coronavirus, completely collapsing economy, or the explosion on August 4, which was the world's largest non-nuclear explosion that wiped out most of the city. And it was third after Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Like, that was how big that explosion was. When you're dealing with stuff like that, you know, really you have nothing but your spirit left. And comedy really focuses on the spirit because you're giving people a reason to be there. So I always felt like when I was doing my shows in Beirut or anywhere, even in the US now with all the division, you feel like you have an ability to give people a reminder why they're still here. I don't think anything else can do that.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. What are some of the things that you try to put out as a message, like in your stand up, and like what are your, because there are things that I say and it's kind of to teach people, but it's in a funny way. You know, there's things, messages I try to get out without being too specific. Are there certain things that you want the audience to know
Mhm.
that are important to you?
Every show, I kind of have a theme, and I'm unapologetic about putting a message across. For me, it's kind of like I just don't want to be preachy, right? So for me, it's like if I'm going to put a message across, it has to be hilarious. That's kind of like the standard that I set for myself. But I will put, you know, cross the T's and dot the I's. When I get to that punchline, that I will always accentuate it with a soundbite, with a sentence to make sure that you got what I'm trying to say. In my last special, it was called "The Future Is Now." A lot of it was about how if we empower women, we would be in a much better position, and how women are much better than men, and trying to kind of break up that lie that we've been led to believe from birth, that, you know, men just do it better than women. It's not like it was told to us. It was just kind of like introduced to us societally. And coming from Beirut and seeing war led by men and peace brokered by women, you know what's stronger. It's easy to pick up a gun. It's difficult not to. And women were behind all of that. So, you know, putting that message across, I do it in jokes that are hilarious, whether it's, you know, how women play video games and men play video games, to more poignant points, or in the special before that, love isn't the answer. I genuinely believe that love is not the answer. I think hate is the answer to being better for all of us. I think that we need to take an emotion like hatred and understand it, and understand that when we say hate, it's a very powerful emotion, and therefore shying away from it or treating it as a negative is dangerous. Because if you apply discipline and focus with hate, that's how you get ambition. And I might use hilarious jokes about, you know, in that special, I talked about how I was best friends with a Muslim kid. I'm Christian, and how many people hated us and how we overcame that hate with these hilarious stories. And then I might add a sentence that says, you know, when I say hate is the only thing stronger than hate is a more disciplined hate, and then people kind of laugh thinking it's a joke, I'll then say, I can prove it to you. When two people love each other, for whatever reason, if the people around them don't want them to be together, they fight to stay together. They don't fight to stay together because they love each other. They fight to stay together because they hate being apart. And if their hatred of being apart is greater than people's hatred of them being together, they stick it out. And then I move on with the show. So that's kind of my style. I'll put in a quick sentence just to make sure, because it's important to me that people get what I'm trying to say, because they're paying me to make them be there. You know, they're paying me to tell them why they're there. So I have to give them a reminder of our humanity. And people might say, you know, just stick to your lane. We get that all the time. I saw a recent tweet. Somebody told you that, which I thought was hilarious. And it makes me laugh, because what we do is we're philosophers with jokes. And really our only value is our perspective. So telling us to stick to our lane is funny, as if our lane is perspective. We can weigh in on anything that we want.
That's true. I mean, there's no limit. They try to silence us and tell us we can only talk about this, we can only talk about that, we can only do stand-up comedy, we can only do. I mean, it's like that's the reason why we're comics. It's
the reason why we're comics, and I find it hilarious that Americans who say stick to your lane to artists treat artists now like they're second-rate citizens. As a person who's lived abroad, who's witnessed atrocities,
Yeah.
that have been committed by the American government to innocent civilians firsthand. I'm an American, but we know how fucked up our government can be. We know how revolutions that we just saw what happened to the Kurds that helped America fight ISIS were left to be butchered by the Turks because Trump was done with them. We know that the only reason that America is still beloved is because of our artists. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan, if it wasn't for LeBron James, if it wasn't for Michael Jackson, if it wasn't for Madonna, if it wasn't for Jessica Kirson, and if it wasn't for Dave Chappelle, and if it wasn't for Bill Burr, and if it wasn't for all of these different people, our actors in our movies, if it wasn't for Iron Man and for the Avengers, and if it wasn't for all of these things, people would be constantly trying to murder Americans at every fucking instant. If it wasn't for Friends, Seinfeld, Frasier, these shows were huge in the Middle East. They humanized a murderous war machine that was America. The military-industrial complex of America is only tempered down by our artists. So when you tell an artist, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
You're making a grave mistake. Your artist, Conan O'Brien and The Late Show and all of that stuff was what Arabs and non-Arabs, Asians, and people who are affected by America's foreign policy and greed and have lost family members, they might have hate in their hearts, and then they would laugh to an American and realize that that's not America. You know, that's not what it is. And that was important.
That's so true what you're saying. So you see that, of course, this cancel culture is just absolutely
Bullshit.
it's bullshit, and it's also dangerous.
Yeah. But I don't believe it's working.
No, it's not
funny.
working. It actually is backfiring, I think, at this point.
It's backfiring, and also comedians who keep saying like you can't say anything anymore while they're saying it on a Netflix special or like a comedy. It's like you're saying it.
I can't stand that.
You're on the world's biggest platform and you're saying it. You're clearly not canceled.
Podcast that you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars on. Like, you're saying it and making a fortune. So what the fuck are you talking about?
I don't get it. Why are we giving so much importance and energy to some people online? Which, if you look at the numbers, even Donald Trump has 80-something million followers, right? Barack Obama has 120-something million followers. Those are presidents of the United States of America with that many. So these are very high-profile public figures. There's almost 8 billion people on this planet. Why are we giving so much importance to individuals and discounting our worth? So I have on Instagram 60+ thousand followers. That's nothing. That's bullshit compared to some people who have hundreds of millions of followers.
Right.
Does that make me worth less or worth more if I have more followers than somebody else? Why are we putting importance on people online?
Ridiculous, honestly, Nemr, as you know, like you can, and you're talking about doing shows for thousands of people. Like, I could do a show for 5,000 people. I mean, I don't say this a lot, but I could kill people stand up screaming, and then I'll get like 10 followers on Twitter. Like, it doesn't mean that they're going to follow you on social media just because.
And it doesn't fucking matter. How many comedians, without naming names, do we know that have an insane following?
Yeah.
And are complete trash? How many comedians do we know that nobody's heard of?
Yep.
That are absolutely incredible. Even when Bill Burr talked about your special, he said, I kept saying Jessica Kirson needs to have a special. Why is nobody giving her a special? And then I was like, fuck it. Let's make a special. I mean, because that's the thing right there. Yeah. Our worth is not determined by how many people like what we say. Our worth is determined by what we say over a period of time. You look back at the body of work and you're like, this is a person I like. And even if it's just, if you have one person that's invested in you, God damn it, that person is worth something.
I agree. They tell that's the person who will spread it for you.
Yeah.
You know, someone said to me, I don't remember, it was a big comic, but they said, as long as you have a big handful of amazing fans who love what you do, you're okay. Because they'll spread the word, they'll do the work. Like, they're great.
Yeah. And if we're not in this business to, nobody does comedy to make money, right? No. If you make money, that's great. Bonus, high five. But you never look at stand-up and be like, one day I'm going to be filthy rich as a comedian. You get into it because you love the industry and you love the craft and you want to be a better human being. So once you get into it and you start doing it, I do live streams on Twitch right now where I'm doing gaming and stuff like that. My average viewership is around 100 people on Twitch. I'll do gaming or a podcast, or when I had you as a guest on the podcast, thanks again for doing that. People loved you. On Twitch, I have the smallest following. If I go live on Facebook, like what I do with the podcast, when you were on Facebook and YouTube, we're in the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
But I now focus only on Twitch because Twitch allows people to interact with me in very unique and fun ways.
Mm-hmm.
And people tell me, well, why don't you just do it on YouTube and Facebook? A lot more people would see you make more money. I'm like, but because Twitch is funner, because the people who are there want to be there, and they're there and they're asking me to give them a reason to be there. And I can do that on Twitch. We can have a great time. They mean something to me. They're worth something to me. So really stay in your lane. Just to circle back around to it, makes me laugh whenever I see people. LeBron James goes up and endorses Biden, and his entire timeline, his entire comment section is filled with people who are telling him, you're the best, you're the GOAT. And then a lot of people tell him to go fuck himself and just keep dribbling a basketball.
I know.
And I'm like,
so it's so ridiculous to me that I don't even know what to say about it. Like how people just say, you don't, because you're a basketball player, like just, you're not, they're human. Donald Trump was a reality star person. What are they talking about? Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members for supporting the podcast.
All right, hold up. Could you take a little off the P's? You're hitting them too hard. Not action.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members for supporting the podcast.
Hold on. Now you're whispering Patreon. Is there a reason you're whispering?
Well, you said to take the
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
You ready? Action.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon member.
Now you got to pause.
For those of you who don't know, Patreon members, is that okay?
It was perfect. Why'd you stop?
Oh, okay. Patreon members.
Cut. Let's go back to the beginning.
Thank you
And action.
Thank you so much to all my Patreon members for supporting the podcast. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast, ad-free episodes, and access to monthly live streams where we talk more about...
All right, let's take it back to the beginning. That was perfect. Do it exactly like that.
I just did it well, though,
Except
but why are you
finish it this
starting
time.
over? Thank you so much to all of my patron...
Cut. Why are you screaming?
Because I'm just trying to get through this.
Action.
Thank you so much to all of my...
Action.
Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast.
Perfect. Keep going.
There's so many P's.
Keep going. Keep going.
Ad-free episodes.
You could cut this out, right?
For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast, ad-free episodes, and access to monthly live streams where we talk more about being relatively sane.
Hold up. Did we agree on monthly live streams?
Yes, you told me I should do them because it'll get more members.
I don't know how to do a monthly live stream.
Don't you just talk in your phone?
We'll figure it out. Come on, let's get through this. We have to go. We should speed this up.
All right. Thank you so much to all my Patreon members for supporting this podcast. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get early access to the podcast, ad-free episodes, and access to monthly live streams. We don't know what that is, but whatever, where we talk about being relatively sane. If you want to join our fantastic community that is so corny, go to patreon.com/Jessica Kirson. That's patreon.com/Jessica Kirson. That's Patreon.
I think you said patriot.com.
Go to patreon.com/Jessica Kirson. That's patreon.com/Jessica Kirson. Patreon.com/Jessica Kirson. Thanks again.
And cut. That's a wrap.
Ugh.
well, the thing is, it's not just for Donald Trump. How many times have we seen people who post stuff that have nothing to do with politics, but people disagree with? You get the same reaction. I think human beings kind of need to come to a conscious realization that giving your opinion online is sacred. You know, we studied it ages ago, and we're seeing what's happening right now in France with the violence and the terrorism happening because of a cartoon strip. And it was the French. Wasn't it Rousseau who first said that? I don't know who it was. I may not agree with you, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it.
Yes.
You know? And anytime you tell somebody to shut up, you're literally the worst person on the planet. You can tell them they're an idiot. You can literally, I mean, I've disagreed with people. I'm like, but dude, you're a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? And you can make fun of them. You can make memes out of them 100%. But you can't tell somebody not to talk, because if they have a platform and they're using it to talk, they're doing better than you because you're using your platform to hate.
And to silence people who have the right to say whatever they want, whether you like it or not.
They have the right to endorse any political candidate. They have just as much as they have the right to say they love heavy metal music and not pop. We're human beings. The more we interact with each other, the more we grow. whether we like or hate what people are saying. Even if you're interacting with a fucking white supremacist, right? Like the most hateful person in the world, you might learn how to defend yourself better. Every time you interact with somebody, you only grow. So in my opinion, let people talk and call them out on their bullshit if you have to, but don't ever say stay in your lane. And don't say that to artists who are literally the only reason that you can travel safely beyond America's borders.
Yeah.
Because for most of the country, for most of the world, if you're an American, if it wasn't for your artists and the positive culture that we spread around the world and the American values that we have said we have but continue to not deliver abroad, you wouldn't be able to leave this country safely. People would be trying to kidnap you at every turn to get vengeance for their murdered cousins, relatives, whatever. Because there's so many countries that America has committed atrocities or sponsored atrocities, whether it's America siding with countries in the Middle East that have committed atrocities, or it's America itself doing that over the many, many decades. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just foreign policy. But it is our artists that literally are the only ones that make it safe for you to go abroad and make sure that your definition of what it means to be American gets translated over the bombs, over the sound of explosions. They're making sure that the world knows who you are. That's awesome, man. Only cinema can do that. Only music can do that. Comedy can do that. That's it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And as a comic, like out of all my friends, you're gonna laugh at this, but I have a lot of comedy friends. I mean, I don't connect and feel close to so many. You're one of the people I connected with immediately.
Thank
You're
you.
in that small handful of like the comics that I feel are pretty positive and happy. I don't want to say you're happy because that's
No,
ridiculous.
I know, but a lot of comics are negative. I know what you're trying to say. A lot of comics are very pessimistic.
Yeah, do you get like anxious or depressed a lot? Like do you have a thing that you deal with or no?
I don't, because I've lived a lot of dude, we left Lebanon when I was 2 years old because of war. And we came to America. We had nothing. It was very difficult. My parents were unhappy. I was surrounded by misery. Mm-hmm. Then we went back to Lebanon, and I've lived through massacres and wars, and I've lost friends to car bombings and missiles that fell from the sky, and wars that we weren't even fighting. And I've seen refugees and poor people. It gives you perspective. Yeah. When you live through all of that and you come out the other side, I hear people complaining, and I find it funny. I don't want to sound like an old Jewish parent or an Arab parent, because they're the same.
I get it. I feel the same way because I have a daughter with heart disease. So I've said this on the podcast so many times, but I've been in children's hospitals more times than I can count. I've seen kids die. I've seen parents being told their child died. I've seen babies suffering, this, that. So I'm like, you're complaining about a ticket?
Or, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's insane.
I mean, I'm not comparing it to what you've been.
Quite the contrary. What you've witnessed and been through is the identical thing I've witnessed and been through. What people don't understand is it's not like there isn't a magnitude. What's amazing about the human spirit is you can learn a lesson from a microdose. It's just like a vaccine. If you get for all the anti-vaxxers out there, they're going to hate what I'm saying. But if you get a microdose of something, your body will react to it in the appropriate way. So you don't have to go through you don't have to have a bomb dropped on you to understand fear. You simply have to fear that a bomb might be dropped on you to understand that fear.
Yes.
And what you just described, you going to a hospital and seeing people being told their kids are going to, I don't think a bomb being dropped on you is actually worse than that. I think it's, that's probably any situation where human beings have something taken away from them and they are powerless to do anything about it is, in my opinion, the worst thing you can put a human being through. And, your daughter having heart disease, there's nothing you can do about that. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, you can give her the best health care, but there's nothing you can physically
do. Right. Yeah.
Do. So these things, it's not about making people grateful. It's about giving perspective. Yes. And I find it funny that comics who are supposed to be the best at perspective sometimes get worked up about the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Now, not sometimes, a lot.
It's weird.
Really crazy stuff. And again, like I said before, it's a lot of comics who are doing very well. So it's even more mind-boggling.
It's so weird.
A lot of the ones that are doing well, who are making money, are complaining. It's like, what is wrong with, and they live in a big house, drive a beautiful car. I mean, I just don't, That's why I keep saying people need to just go to therapy and talk and figure this shit out because it's not about the material things. But let me
Yeah.
get back to what you've dealt with because I think it's very important. I've been dealing with my own trauma lately and I feel a lot better because I did a lot of work on it because that's what you've been through is so traumatic on your body and your
Of course.
soul and your heart. Do you do anything to deal with that? Because a lot of people that listen to this deal with anxiety and sadness, whatever. And we always talk about like things that people do to kind of relax themselves, whatever your thing is. Do you meditate? Do you exercise? Do you eat well? Like, what's
I,
your.
I'm going to give my personal experience with the big caveat, knowing that not everything works for everyone. So this is what works for me. Um, I think definitely working, being healthy. You don't have to hit the gym, but being active, going for a walk 3 times a week is
Yeah.
in my opinion, is more than enough. If you want to do more, that's great. Starting your day off with a walk is the best thing. You get those endorphins going. Having a to-do list really helps keep you focused. Just kind of like every day I'm going to do these. You don't have to go hardcore. You don't have to do what you want to do, just what you have to do. Just putting it on a list and crossing it out is therapeutic.
Every day.
Every day. Wake up in the morning, get that done. I wake up super early. That helps me. Because we deal with a lot. And my main thing that I've done, and this is why I want to make sure that people understand this might not work for you, might be worse for you, but this is what I do, is I secretly film porn videos and snuff. I'm just kidding. What I do, and
I'm like, me too.
snuff. No, I look forward, or not look forward, whenever something really negative happens to me or traumatic, I take it. And what I do is I just sit down and experience it. I know it sounds weird, but I don't see friends. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. In general, I don't drink at all, unless it's an occasion. I don't do drugs at all. But even in the worst experiences, when my best friend died in a car accident, I was devastated. I sat down for 3-4 days and just fucking cried and felt miserable and took it. You just, whenever you have those things happen to you and you take it, you grow the most. I always give an example of video games. When you play a video game, you play the level, you get to a boss, you fight the boss. It's very difficult and you die many times, but then just because you've gotten through it, you get all these experience points, and then you decide where you want to put the experience points in your character. You can level up your wisdom or level up your strength. That's what life is. These boss battles or these traumatic things that are happening to you, if you try to distract yourself from them, you're missing out on the opportunity of growth in that moment. Those are kind of blessings if you think about it, because they're allowing you to get ready for the next thing that's going to come. And it's going to come. Shit's going to happen. After everything I've been through, and there is nothing that could really traumatize me or scratch me, honestly. That's what I thought. On August 4, the explosion goes off in Beirut.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrific. My God.
Horrific.
It's so horrible for you to see that.
And my girlfriend sends me a voice note, who's now my fiance. We just got engaged.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And she sends me a voice note and she says, I'm fine. Don't worry about anything. Just want you to know I'm fine. There was an explosion. I don't know what's happened. I'll let you know. And behind her, you hear screaming. She's in Beirut. I'm here. I was sitting here in America. I'm watching TV on my screen and I don't know what's going on. And there's nothing I could do to get in touch with her or to run to help her. And you don't know if your family's safe. You don't know who of your friends is there. That traumatized me.
Of course.
Even with everything that I had been through, I thought I was impervious. Then this came and fucking floored me. And I sat down right there and I took it. Just like, and she was, the whole fucking building blew up around her. A girl right next to her lost her eye. A guy right next to her can't move his hand anymore.
God, Nemr,
And but that's the thing. She was telling jokes a little while later. So like, what excuse do I have not to just sit there and take it? That's kind of what I think is the best thing you can do in life, is have these little habits, these hobbies, surround yourself with positive people only. And then when the trauma comes and something bad happens, sit down and just take it. It'll be over sooner than you know if you do that. If somebody cheats on you in a very bad relationship, you were madly in love, you found out it was all a lie, sit down, fucking take it. It'll be done in 3 or 4 days.
If you go
let
through,
it wash over you.
around it unless you go through it. There's no way through it unless you go through it. So it's like,
Here.
because I've used drugs and alcohol. I've used stuff to not feel it, and it never worked. It only made
No.
things worse. I mean, now
It postpones. It basically postpones the feelings, and by the time you the only reason that you end up facing those feelings is because the numbness of the drugs and the drinking got you to a place where you're in such a poor state you can't afford more of the drinking and the drugs. So now you're in a shittier place and you're forced to feel that shit. So it's better off feel it, go through it, and then celebrate with some drugs and drinking if you want. You know what I'm saying? That you got through it.
How are things there now? I mean, because we don't
Terrible.
know about it all. Yeah.
Terrible. We've been gaslighted for years that our worst enemy was Israel and all of this shit. And turns out our worst enemy, a lot of educated people like myself already knew this, but turns out that our worst enemy wasn't Israel, and Israel isn't our enemy, just to make it very clear, the government policies, just like if you would say America, of Netanyahu and people like that.
Oh, well, of course.
Which are the worst. It turns out that our worst enemy is our government and the mafia, the mob, the war criminals that are running the country are the most evil people, each and every one of them. Not like, the Democrats or the Republicans. In this case, it's the Democrats, the Republicans, the Libertarians, Kanye West, and everybody is the worst, most vile human being on the planet. If they all died, only net positives would happen. There would be no negatives whatsoever. And it's disgusting that we're held hostage by foreign powers and policies. And caught in the middle is the most beautiful people who just want to be left alone to watch Netflix and chill. Literally, they just want to be left alone to go online, have a good time, go party, and they just want to be left the fuck alone. They don't want to have to do with any of this. And they won't be left alone because Iran and Saudi Arabia and America and China and Russia and Syria and we're just like, can you fuck off, please?
Yeah,
we don't care about this shit. There's a joke that's famous in Lebanon where they say when God created Lebanon, he told the angels, he said, I'm going to create this country that has the most beautiful sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and it has mountains, and you can go skiing and swimming in the same day because only 40 minutes is going to be all coastal. Then you drive up 40 minutes, and now you're in the mountains, and it has the most beautiful food and the most delicious, just everything. And the people are always funny, and the women are gorgeous, and the men, they're all these amazing men, everything. They're like, well, I mean, isn't that a bit unfair? And he's like, well, wait till you see their neighbors. Because we're located between Syria, Israel and Palestine and the sea. So we're fucked. We have geographic importance because Iran wants to have Hezbollah in our country to be able to strike at Israel, not to defeat Israel. That's the biggest piece of bullshit you'll ever hear. Not to, let's put it this way, not to save the Palestinians as they say they want to do. No, just so they can make fucking money by having a negotiation chip in Lebanon. So when America comes in and wants something from the region, they say, okay, we'll make sure Hezbollah stays in point. Give us some cash, or give us this geographical location we want, or give us Iraq, which is what happened, or give us Syria, which is what happened.
It's unbelievable.
It's complete bullshit.
So beyond all of us that it's like it's just so big, and we're so little in this. We can only work on ourselves and create and try to make things more beautiful. Like there's not much you can do with that kind of money and greed and power. It's, what do? You just have to accept it.
You do what Lebanese people do, which is they deal with incredible trauma every day, and they take it and they grow. And I've never seen a stronger people in my life. I really haven't. The stuff they've dealt with is unprecedented. And I mean that. And yet every day they're still telling you, dude, Jessica, I can't believe this happened. Like, I have a very close friend of mine. I'm not going to name his name. He was filming with his phone. He was driving, and the explosion was right ahead of him, and his entire car just fucking eviscerated, moved off the thing. The glass got shattered, and he filmed it. He goes to the hospital. He miraculously not too hurt. Car's a total loss. He had a house in an area that, in the house, basically the whole building fell down. Complete disaster. 3 or 4 hours later, he sends me the video he took with his phone, and he's edited on top of it the music like making my way downtown, and it's basically like it's this footage. It's like making my way downtown, and when the music comes in, the explosion goes on. It was the funniest thing I'd seen in my life. And he said from the fucking hospital bed. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the funniest shit. And he's like, if you want, he's telling me, he's like, share it. I'm like, I'm not going to share it. This is the most insensitive. We're going to hell for this. It's the most insensitive thing in the world. He's like, tell everybody I sent it to you. I'm like, nobody knows who the fuck you are. I'm not going to send this out on my platform. But that's how you deal with trauma. Comedy, and you take it in, and then you're like, what can I do with this so I own it?
Yeah.
Right? I was in an explosion. Instead of me being the victim of an explosion, I will be the author of a joke. And that's the decision that guy made. That's a decision we can all make.
God, that's such a beautiful way of describing stand-up, because I feel like that's what I do in my act.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, that's what I do in my act too.
And make fun of it. And sometimes people get upset, and I'm like, I'm okay with it. You're getting upset. You know, this is how I'm healing.
And if they laugh at it, at that with you in that joke, then that issue is no longer something that holds them hostage. It's now a punchline. You can reduce the biggest enemy in the world to a joke. You know, and in Lebanon, I have a joke. If people go on YouTube, just type my name, Nemr, and ISIS. I know that that's a terrible thing to say, but it's called Fighting ISIS. It's fun. You'll see my recruitment video on the internet if you'd like to join. Just type Nemr ISIS, and there's a bit called Fighting ISIS with Comedy. And it's basically a hilarious bit from how we fought ISIS in Lebanon and completely decimated them just by constantly making jokes, because you can't fight them. They're blowing themselves up. It's an ideology. And we demoralized them because they would blow themselves up, kill dozens of Lebanese people. And then minutes later, we had jokes. And they just were like, what the fuck do we have to do to give these people a bad day? And that's the power of comedy. No matter how bad it gets, if you can make a joke out of it, it's no longer something that happened to you. It's now your joke. Mm-hmm. And I think people underestimate how much more powerful that is than weapons and guns and bombs and everything, is that you still have your spirit when all of that is said and done. And that's comedy.
So true. That is so true. I love what you're saying, because that's how I feel about my stand-up and why I love doing it so much, because I can make fun of things that have happened to me and they lose power. It's so true. So what is your, what do you want to do with your career? Because mine's changed, like ever since COVID, and even before that, I always wanted to just have a show on TV, you know, maybe a talk show or something I'd love to do, so that I could fill up theaters and do stand-up. And that's changed. I still love stand-up, but I don't love it like I used to at all.
Really?
I'm sure that'll come back at some point, but it's just been so, you know, because this country is so divided, and I'm seeing so many people's true colors, and I literally feel like some of them don't deserve to hear my art, like what I've worked so hard for. Like, they don't deserve to laugh. I don't want to make people laugh that I want to burn in a fire. But what is your thing? Like, I never talked to you about that. What is something you really would love to do?
I would just like to say that you should want to make people laugh that you want to burn in a fire, because those people stand against everything you fundamentally stand for. Mm-hmm. And if you make them laugh, you just own them.
That's true.
So I would be very discouraged from allowing you to believe that if you can put people in a room that agree and disagree with you, mm-hmm. and get them to laugh together, then you've done more to bring the world together, especially in this divided country that we live in right now, than anybody else. And I'm talking from experience. That's what I did in the Middle East.
I do feel like I do that sometimes. I'm just tired. I'm really,
I know.
It's this whole, it used to just be getting up on stage saying whatever I wanted. I don't mean being dirty, but just like saying my point of view, whatever I wanted. People didn't overthink it, and everyone was laughing. And now it's it's just much more complicated now.
Well, here's the thing. When you do something and you get feedback that's negative, mm-hmm. that negative feedback that you're getting is coming from negative people. And those happen to be just a handful. Because, you know, one person with a gun can define the direction of an entire crowd. Mm-hmm. One person fires a shot into the air, 1,000 people run away. Mm-hmm. So the power of negativity is as important as the importance you give it. Mm-hmm. So if you let those people define your attitude towards towards comedy or towards performing, then you're doing a disservice to all the other people that didn't give you feedback because they had a great fucking time.
Yeah.
You know, I told that to my mom because I would have comment sections with thousands of comments, and then my mom would call me up and say, "Did you see that person, what they wrote about you?" And she'd be all worked up.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Mom, there are thousands of people." My mom's like this very religious, devout Christian. And I told her there's thousands of people giving me love, yet you're using your energy for the one person giving me hate. What do you think Jesus would say?
Yeah.
And I told my mom that. She was like, holy, like, it just dawned upon her at that moment that you owe your energy to the other people. And always, you know, it's a big tent, right? That's what everybody's been saying recently. You're welcome. Hateful person, white supremacist, Nazi, the worst people on the planet. You can look at them as very powerful human beings, or what they really are, which is very pathetic, misguided individuals. Like
and
a
lot of them are sick.
A lot of them are sick, and you can heal them. Not that it's your responsibility to, but I mean, you have that power should you choose to do that, just by making them laugh. Because you're Jewish. I can't think of something worse for a Nazi to happen to him.
That's true.
Than to find a Jew funny. You know what I'm saying? So
very true. That's
so
true.
if I were you, I wouldn't be discouraged. And that's kind of like, for me, my goal has always been since day one to put people in a room who would never be in a room together, get them to laugh together, and then send them on their way. That's always been my purpose. I always felt that if I kept doing that, eventually it would catch on. And that was all you really needed to keep people in touch, even when they disagreed, is you give them things to remember that they agree on. You know, whether it's like, you know, farts are funny, you know, getting two people to laugh who hate each other, but they both laugh at farts. I mean, you've really done a lot of work right there.
You're right.
You've covered ground. You've reminded them that, hey, I know you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, but farts are hilarious.
Yeah, we can all agree that farts.
We can all agree that farts are. So no matter what you do, so my ultimate goal and what I felt that Corona really helped me move even faster towards that is I've always wanted to do a show, and this is where I think I'll disappear into the sunset. One show, massive arena, thousands of people from all different backgrounds, but at the same time, that show is filmed and live streamed around the world. I want to be popular enough that people all over the world know me so well that at that moment, the world just pauses and watches that special so everybody can laugh together. That's what I want. I want there to be a moment in time people can point to and say, there was, when Nemr did that show, the world laughed together. That's my ultimate goal. So when I do that, I will disappear into the sunset. If I don't do that, I kind of feel that everything I've done was just a lot of fun, but really didn't mean anything.
You'll make it happen.
I'm not going to stop until I do.
I just wish I was you. You said.
No, I wish I was you. I wish I was you. You're fucking hilarious. You're awesome on stage, man. I wish I was you just for your impression of the nail salon women.
That's hilarious. Well, you are as a person, and you're very educated. I just love talking to you. I really do.
It means a lot. Coming from you, that means a lot. I look up to you greatly. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, tell everyone where they can follow you, where they tell them all about what you're doing.
Just any ISIS account, QAnon, they're all my people. Just, follow them. And we have a special offer. If you guys want to, any people out there that want to turn this into a caliphate, if you really want to follow me, go and just go to, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Twitch is my favorite place to be right now because that's it's the closest thing to stand up, but in a virtual world. It's all Nemr comedy. So Nemr comedy. Or you can, if you have WhatsApp, add me, text me, +1 424 542 9902.
Say that number again, just so people can get it.
Sure. It's +1 424 542 9902. So hit me up with a WhatsApp. That's an application. If people don't know it, and we can just, ask me anything you want, and we can just chill. And I can also send you a schedule whenever I'm streaming, and you'll get notifications when I go live. And if I'm doing a show near you, you'll get a notification. So awesome. You don't have to go on Instagram and see all the photoshopped supermodels to get to my posts.
Yeah, I know.
You can go straight to me.
Well, I love you. Thank you again for doing this. I
love you.
Appreciate your time, and you're gonna make that happen. I know it. I just know it. And we will
with your help, Jessica.
Yes, of
Good help.
course, always. Thank
sure.
you so much, honey. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Love you so much.
Love
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.